What's happening? Welcome back to Run Through TV. It is Ben Shepherd here, and today's guest is Andy Raynor. You might know Andy as the Forest of Dean runner. His YouTube channel is growing and growing. His presence on social media is growing as well, and he's a brilliant runner in his own right, also having just achieved a big marathon PB at the Newport Marathon a couple of months back, around that 2:40 mark. But it hasn't always been plain sailing for Andy, as you'll hear about in this conversation. We get into why he started running, his running journey, and now what his kids think about him making videos as well. I hope you enjoy it, and if at any point you do, please do give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Run Through TV as well. We can see that a lot of you are watching these videos and not subscribing to the channel, so please get that done for us here on Run Through TV.
My name's Andy, Forest of Dean runner. I'm a runner based in the Forest of Dean, and I've been running for 8.5 years, I suppose now. 2015, January the 1st, New Year's resolution to get fit, quit football, started running, and have just enjoyed the process ever since. Learned a lot along the way. As everyone knows, the growth in running is never a linear path, but it's a great path to be on, a great learning journey. And here we are today, sort of 8.5 years down the line, just kind of enjoying myself, loving what I'm doing, running, loving filming, running, loving going to races, supporting local clubs, just everything. It's a brilliant journey.
You mentioned there, and I think straight away I want to pick up on New Year's resolution. I feel like a lot of people have that New Year's resolution, but few maybe stick to it to the extent that you have. What made you go from a person that just wanted to start running to completely falling in love with it?
Well, to be honest with you, I watched the 2012 Olympics, and we had that magic Saturday with the 3 gold medals, Mo, Greg Rutherford, and was it Jessica Ennis-Hill? I can't remember. It's 3 incredible gold medals. And I thought, I want to run. And then I didn't do anything for 3 years. And the odd thing is back in 2007, I ran for about 6 months, and I did 2 half marathons, my local one here and one in Cardiff. Cardiff, as a lot of people know now, is a massive half marathon, but back then it was very embryonic. It was like its 2nd or 3rd year or something crazy, really small, completely different route. And I did it as part of football training to get fit, and I ran 4 miles twice a week, and that was it. And I vowed after Cardiff Half Marathon that I'd never run again. But football got to a point where I was playing in a local team, great fun, loved it, loved the social side, but it wasn't pushing me enough. I was in a team that was, we were in a division that was good but not great, and to take that next step, I remember having a chat with someone in the local Chinese on that Christmas. I want to say 27th. They're like, mate, come and play for us. Come on, you know, come and play. And I was like, I'd love to, mate, but I can't be travelling the amount you travel. I've got a young family. And it was at that moment that I kind of went, I'd love to have explored that next step in football, but it just was never practical. So I just went, well, what can I do that's going to push me? I have a real burning desire inside me all my life to just push myself and see how good I can get at something. And I thought, well, do you know what? Go back to running, give it a go. You were inspired by that 2012 moment on Saturday. Get out there, see what you can do. So I basically straight away went out for a couple of runs between Christmas and New Year and went, right, January the 1st, I'm starting, signed up with a PT, hammered strength and stuff with running for the first year. And I've just never looked back. I mean, I don't have a PT anymore, but it was just kind of that whirlwind of, I want to do it and I want to do everything. And although things calmed down, the running then ramped up, and yeah, it just spiraled from there.
Do you remember what those first 6 months were like? Because it's the gains that you make in the first 6 months that just seem like astronomical, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember kind of that first few runs to, let's say, 6 months down the line.
I remember going out in the dark because I didn't want anyone to see me running. I'm 6'6", so I think back then, like my form has improved over time, but I still, if you put me in a stacked field of runners, you can pick me out a mile off. My stride length is way bigger than most other people's. But back then, I didn't have a core. I didn't have a lot of stuff. It was terrible. So I remember the first few runs, and I think I was running sort of 11, 12 minute miles or something like that. And I just built up. And I remember saying to the PT when I signed up with him, after 4 weeks of running, I said, I want to run a 70-minute half marathon by the end of the year. And he looked at me and went, okay, yeah, we'll try. Obviously, I still haven't hit that now, but I just had big dreams, I remember running the first half marathon in March, and I just remember running a lot of my runs too fast, basically. I ran a lot of them, most of the week, way too fast, and then after that first race, I ran a 1:41 half marathon, I think it was. And I thought to myself, that was great and big progress, but I feel burnt out. How am I ever going to run fast if I feel this burnt out? So that's when I started to dive into how to train properly, running slow on some days, running fast. And I remember after the 6 months, I just felt like a new runner, fresh, ready for those faster runs, taking the easier runs a little bit easier. Probably still didn't get the balance quite right, but it was way better than what it was at the start.
Did you feel naturally gifted at it to start with, mate? Or do you feel like it's something that you really have to work at?
Yeah, I really have to work at it. A lot of people say to me now when they see sort of, I guess, the progress, oh, you've obviously got a natural talent for running. I really don't. I've got no natural talent whatsoever. There's a lot of people that I used to train with that progressed way quicker than I did. And I think that comes down to, well, obviously, a lot of it comes down to my build. I am 6'6". I'm not as efficient as other people. I'm a much more efficient shorter distance runner. I was really good at school at sprinting the 100 and 200 meters, and on football I played, despite my height, I played on the wing because I could sprint. So I came off the back of very much fast twitch muscle fiber sports, and the slow twitch stuff just took, like, now that's my preferred type of running, longer, slower stuff. But back then it wasn't, and I remember a lot of my friends would start running later than me but then progress way faster than me and get past me. And I just think to myself, it's all right, we're all built differently. You're never going to be an elite runner, but just do the best you can. It did used to bother me a little bit in the beginning, but now I just got to the point where, because I know what I'm doing with training blocks and how to periodize training and stuff, I do see regular progress, which for me is all I'm looking for, because as we know, comparison is often like the thief of joy, as they say, and you can compare yourself to a lot of people. I've learned very quickly not to do that. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm the most naturally gifted, but I'm the one that will turn up week in, week out.
You mentioned kind of knowing how to I can't say that word, put a training block together, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Where did you sort of learn to do that? Did you have a coach yourself? Was it all self-taught? Like how did that process of kind of actually understanding how to train properly kind of come in?
It was self-taught in the beginning. So there was a couple of YouTubers that I used to watch when I first started, Sage Canaday and then Ethan Newbury, the ginger runner. He was more shoe reviews, and then Sage was more sort of training topics, training talks. And I would study him. I'd learn a lot about how he was doing it. Then I would go off online and do some research, because he was talking about different methods of training. I think at the time he was training with Hanson Brooks when I found him, which is way back. And I just started to learn about the process of building, and then I basically took this 16-week model that I found a lot of people use, which was like, I think it was like 4 weeks of base building, 6 weeks of speed, 6 weeks of speed endurance, and then 4 weeks of kind of peaking and then tapering. So it was just a very bog standard cookie cutter. Start with the base, put a bit of speed on, add the endurance, sharpen up and taper off. And I just repeated that process. And although I now understand there's a lot more to it, that in itself, that just basic principle, that's what got me to a lot more progress in the first couple of years.
You mentioned it before, but obviously you've got a family, a job, and all of that as well. How do you go about balancing everything? Because going back to back, kind of, we'll get into your race schedule and what has been your race schedule over the past couple of years. It must be quite hard to kind of spin all those plates.
Yeah, I get up really early for my runs before.
I don't sleep.
Basically, yeah. Sleep is non-existent. No, I get up really early, between sort of like 5:30 and 6 o'clock, and I get out the door before. So me and my wife alternate school runs. So I do the morning, she does the afternoon, and so I just got to make sure that I'm back by sort of like 7:45 to get showered, dressed, and get out the door for the school run. So 9 times out of 10, my runs are done before the day starts, so it doesn't interfere with work and anything. And if I miss it or I oversleep because I'm knackered, then I'll do it in the evening. But I used to always be an evening runner, but now I'm a morning runner, and I really struggle with the evenings. So like with football, one of the reasons I stopped that was, as I said, because I had 2 kids at the time that were like 2 and 4, really hard time with parenting. They're young, they're energetic, they want to be doing everything. And, I'm working full time and then off on football on a Saturday and training in the week. And I just thought that's the balance that I need to getting into running, but I can at least start to mold it around the day and around when the kids are in bed and stuff like that. So the rule of thumb is 9 times out of 10, I get out when the kids are in bed.
And it's nice to have that routine for you as well, isn't it? That is when you run, that is the time for yourself, and that is when you're kind of working on your passion.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people say how do you get up early and what have you? And I think to myself, well, I never really was an early morning person, but I think what drives me to get up is knowing that, when you have a busy life and you have a family and you have young kids and stuff, you need that time, wherever that might be. And for me, making that time, my kids are a lot older now, so the evenings are no longer put them to bed at 7:30 and then we've got 2.5 hours or whatever before we go to bed. Our kids are like 14 and 12, our oldest now, so they're up until like 9 o'clock. So like the mornings are my priority and my me time, and that's what drives me to get up, just to have that little bit of headspace. I know it sounds crazy, but in a day that's filled with everything, I just know that I can get a couple of hours squeezed in the morning that's just going to make the world of difference to the day.
And obviously with yourself as well, you don't just have the running, but you've got the YouTube side of things as well. With kids being 14 and 12 and YouTube being such a big thing, what do they think about Dad going out running with a camera and sitting in the office and doing a shoe review?
Oh, my life. My eldest watches my videos. Sometimes she's quite invested in it, so they both have their own little YouTube channels, but they do their own stuff, like YouTube shorts, so they edit all their stuff on their phones. My middle one is not quite so interested, but they do talk about it at school. They do say my dad does YouTube, and sometimes, bless them, they don't get the best response, especially if I guess they feel proud. And they'll show their mates, and their mates are like, what is that? And bless them, so that they might be like, oh, Dad, they laughed at me. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, but running is a niche thing, so they're probably going to be watching gaming videos, not running, and not your dad. But no, they're really good. They laugh a lot, and especially at the thumbnails and stuff that I make. But do you know what? They're good as gold, to be fair.
What's it been like seeing the growth there? Because it does seem like it's growing and growing and growing. It must feel quite nice.
Yeah, it's a bit surreal and it's a bit amazing. And I go through blips and phases where I kind of have wobbles and things where I think about like the trajectory of the channel, where it's going, what I want to do with it. And at the core has always been training. Like that's my cornerstone. And in terms of if we want to talk about like views and stuff like that, training videos get the least views, and they spread the least, because you're really, when you watch someone's training, you're buying into their journey. It's not like a searchable piece of content, or it's less searchable. So shoe reviews get more views because they're searched more. So my thing is always to try and balance out training, how-to videos, shoe reviews, and occasionally longer sort of training runs if I can get someone to film, and just trying to find that balance all the time. Like recently I changed my video schedule because I was like, YouTube keeps telling me I'm posting in the morning at 7 a.m. when less viewers are online, so I'm like, okay, let's change that. But I mean, I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years at 7 a.m. And then I changed it to 4 p.m. when it was really popular to post, and it just made no difference whatsoever. And I get comments like, oh, I miss watching your videos with breakfast. And then I found myself checking analytics all the time. And I thought, this isn't why I do it. I love making videos. I record a video, I record the footage, I edit the video, I publish the video, I delete the footage, clear my mind, clear the computer, and go again, repeat. It's a simple thing. And by checking the analytics all the time, just made me like, no, it's going back to 7 a.m. I don't want this. So it really is just a case of putting my passion out there, putting the videos out there, mostly getting positivity and just enjoying it, really.
It's almost like you're treating it as a session in that way, isn't it? Like you're filming, you're editing, and then you're forgetting about it. So you're getting up, you're getting the session done, and then you're going to have a look at the session, and then you're going to think, right, this went well, this didn't, move on, go again.
Absolutely. I believe in a clear mind and a clear space. And although I wouldn't quite say I'm a minimalist type of person in life, I often find like I try and approach my YouTube videos as just a snapshot in time. So it's just a video diary and a video document of what I did that day. And then at that point, like I've got a record of it. It's on YouTube. If I ever want the video again, I can just download it off YouTube. Yes, the quality is not great, but I don't care. I'd rather just go record, edit, publish, delete, clear my mind, put the video out there and get ready to go again. I know a lot of YouTubers like to stash footage on hard drives. Don't get me wrong, I've got a few bits and bobs on hard drives, some good B-roll footage that I'll use quite a bit, but I won't keep daily videos on there. The only stuff that I keep is of when I've got someone to be able to film me so I can use it as B-roll. But other than that, yeah, I just like to cleanse the mind and just get the video out there and say that was Thursday, the 25th of June. That's what happened. That's the vlog. Job done.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to talk about, and I think it bounces on quite nicely from that actually, is kind of clearing your mind, because a lot of people have to do that after a race. And particularly when that race maybe goes badly, you kind of have to think, right, I have to forget about that. I know I've done work to this point and that work's banked. We need to move on and think about the next thing. And I know your journey to your PB in Newport, which you absolutely demolished. I was there actually.
Oh wow, were you?
Yeah. I didn't have the best race that day, but these things happen, don't they? But
yeah,
how have you kept motivated throughout those marathons that maybe haven't quite gone to plan, and those races that haven't gone to plan? Because you go up to a certain point, you think this is going to be the one, and then it's not, and then you do it again, and then it's not, and then you do it again, and it's not, and you keep saying to yourself, how do you keep motivated through that?
I think for me, I always kind of think to myself, it's really difficult because on YouTube as well, you'll get a lot of people that are offering coaching advice to you or telling you you're doing it wrong, and you do on Strava, everywhere, social media. I always say to yourself, like, if you put yourself out there, if you're big enough and ugly enough to put your journey out there, you've got to be big enough and ugly enough to take whatever comes back. And you get a lot of that, and then it makes you question things, and you're like, no. What I see during a training block, and I always tell people, is especially if you do a 16-week marathon block, which can be long and grueling, what you think to yourself is, I always go, if this is spring, imagine how fit you're going to be in the summer. And I almost just try and take the pressure completely off the marathon and go, this training, all right, we hope to nail the marathon. I hope it goes well, fingers crossed. But if it doesn't, you're going to be so fit in the summer. And then the next block, if you get that, another block under your belt, you go, do you know what? I'm going to demolish my 5K, 10K and half marathon times when this block's done. And I just keep approaching training blocks going, after this, you'll be amazing. After this, this is a journey. This isn't just 16 weeks to a point. This is a lifelong block after block after block after block. So I try and see it as one long journey rather than just a chunk in time. With the marathons in particular, though, for me, I've run, I think it was 9 now, or 9, I think, and most of them have gone wrong, to be fair. And I think what's kept me going is that I've known deep down that I can do it. There's just something holding me back, and that something ended up being fueling, which I finally got right. So I'd be like, keep tinkering with fueling, keep going, and then eventually you'll get it. And when I got it, it was such an amazing feeling.
I mean, as a course, for anybody that's watching this and has run Newport, it's one of those marathon courses that is
soul-destroying.
There's pockets of support. But few pockets of support, and a lot of it is a very much solo endeavor. It's not a London marathon. It's not a Manchester marathon. It's a marathon that at mile 23 you go around an industrial estate, which is
that's horrific. That's horrific.
What was in your head when you were thinking, I think this is the one today?
Well, it's interesting because although I say it's soul destroying jokingly, I prefer those courses. When I did London, the adrenaline just overwhelmed me, and I don't like that. Like, I love London, I'll go back to it, I want to do it, but I thrive on country lanes. That's where I prefer to run. And I guess that comes from training on my own a lot. So running around the Forest of Dean where I am on my own, that's, so I kind of got used to it. And to be fair, luckily enough, that course that we ran encompasses 2 or 3 races that I do throughout the year. The Magor 10K, the Lisbury 8. Just those 2 races. So there's a good chunk of that course that I know. Oh, and the Rose Inn races that I do in the summer, that's in there as well. So there's a lot of that course that I'm very, very familiar with, and so that helps as well. But it's interesting you mentioned the industrial estate, because that wasn't and isn't on the route map that they published. So I did the Newport Marathon 2017, 2018, and it is as per, there's a big long out and back, and you come back and you join back onto the main road. But this time you do the big out and back, and when you get to the top, that's when they weave you off through the industrial estate, and I just wasn't prepared for that, and that was soul destroying. But at that moment, I was like, I faded in the last 3 miles, and I just said to myself, you've got 3 miles to go. You can do this. You can do it. You've got runners ahead of you. They're slowing. You are slowing, but you're not slowing as much as them. Pick a focus. Pick one, run to them, pick the next one, run to them, and then finally I found 2 people to get me up and over that last bridge that I went past, and then it was a solo sprint to the finish. And that feeling when you went over there was just like, I still feel it now, so proud, just like I've gutted out weeks of marathon training blocks throughout the years to finally get one that worked. And all that's done now is give me more motivation to practice fueling, to go again, to make sure I fuel even better next time. The weight off your shoulders is massive. I kind of suddenly felt like I had nothing to prove to anybody. It's like, I can run a marathon. So yeah, it was a really good feeling.
What's been the best feeling in running for you, Andy? Because a lot of people talk about, breaking that 20 minutes for the 5K for the first time, breaking the 3 hour for the marathon for the first time, breaking 2:45. Like, what has been the best feeling for you? Was it that, or was it something else?
It's a really good question. There are some time things that stick out in my head. I remember breaking 1:30.5. I had about 6 attempts at that. So that feeling was great. Doing my first sub-3 marathon, that was incredible. But the best feeling I can ever have in running is when I'm out there on the trails. I'm usually with somebody, and whether it's my friend Matt or my friend Lee or someone, I'm just clipping along, and I look down at my watch, and I'm running a relatively fast pace, so like a moderate effort, at a really low heart rate, feeling good, chatting, and then I suddenly get overwhelmed with gratitude. So it's like, you're so lucky to do this. You're so lucky to be able to run this fast, feeling this comfortable. I know there are professional athletes that run way quicker, but I think to myself, God, this pace like 2 or 3 years ago would have been unfathomable, let alone running it how comfortable you are running it now. And those are the best feelings I find, because those are the feelings you don't get in a race, you don't get anywhere else. Nothing builds you up to that. It's just that instant, oh my goodness, it hits you. And you feel, I'm not going to say emotional, but you really fill up with joy and gratitude. That's the best way I can describe it. So for me, absolutely, those are the best ones.
And I know you said about training solo a lot of the time, but being with somebody at those points when things like that happen, it's so nice being able to share those moments with those people as well.
Me and my friend Matt were doing a lot of running training together for our last marathons. I was Newport, he was London, and we were doing a lot of long runs together. And I remember doing the first one, and with him, and we were both quite rusty. He just run Valencia. I hadn't touched a long run in ages, and we both. He's a lot quicker than me, but we both at the end were like, "Oh my word, we've got to run a marathon in a few weeks." And I remember 4 or 5 weeks in, we had a steady first portion, a workout, and then a steady finish. And I remember on the steady finish looking at him going, we've just nailed this, and look how good and comfortable we feel. This is amazing. And he looked at me and was like, yeah, man, this is we've stepped up. Our muscle memories kicked in, marathon training, and it was just that euphoria. And we finished, high-fived, and we were just wow. We knew that at that moment, that our fitness levels had just kind of stepped up. Obviously his is way more than mine, but we both leveled up, and it felt really good. And I love those moments, because races can give you all sorts of moments, but you can't replicate that moment anywhere. It's incredible.
I want to take you all the way back to the start of this conversation then, and you're in that Chinese and you're thinking, I'm gonna go and do this, I'm gonna run. What would Andy of then said if you had told him that this is where you would be in the future?
Patience, because I wanted to run that 70-minute half, and I believed that I could do it in the first 6 months, and then I realized there's no way I can do it. Patience. The journey is, as I said at the start, is not linear. It is a, you will get to here, but it's a build. You'll have setbacks, you'll have injuries, you'll have lots of stuff happen, life happens. But it's worth every second and every step, even the runs you don't want to get out and do, because those are the ones that really sort of make you. And the one, if I could give myself even just one word, it would be patience. It's so worth it.